Welcome everyone to another edition of Learn Analytics podcast. Today we have another great special guest. Her name is Mohita. She has been working in the recruiting and hiring from startups to very big technology companies such as Uber and Yahoo. So today we'll be spending more time to understand from the angle of a hiring, from a recruiter and hiring perspective, what does she look at to help folks who are looking for roles right now? Welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you, Bert. I'm doing well.
Great.
Pleasure to be here.
Great. It's a pleasure to really pick your brain and really want to help people here. So yeah, we could give a short intro about you. That would be really awesome. So
Sure. I've been in the, recruiting world for the last 12 years. I've hired mostly for tech companies and been in the Bay. Started as an account manager where I was on the floor with hiring managers, learning what they're looking for. I've had teams outside of US where I would communicate with them and get candidates. Then I actually went deep into, sorry if you didn't hear me, recruiting myself. Started as a recruiter, moved on, then I went on with a startup, then moved to Yahoo, managed a team there, then moved to Uber. I was a principal there, and now I'm at a startup again.
Great. That's awesome. You've really been on the full spectrum of recruiting and hiring. I'm sure that expertise will be great for this talk. Yeah. So maybe we could start off even from that type of angle. Like a lot of folks who are viewing this might be currently looking for a role or sort of like transitioning to finding a new role, right? Maybe we could start even on the resume aspect, right?
Sure.
Do you have like any general tips and tricks how a resume look like? But we could.
Yes, I would say, most of the people have gotten the hang of how a good resume should look like. Think of it that you have two sheets of paper, and what do you want to present about yourself on that sheet of paper? It has to be truthful, but it has to be exactly what you've done so that you can target the right role. I've seen resumes which have so much detail, and believe you me, no one really reads to that depth. And especially at the recruiter level, where you are scanning so many candidates so quickly, you need the highlights. You need, it's like I have the job description in my head, and then I have your resume. I'm just going to match it. And matching doesn't mean just skill set match. It's like, okay, so and so has been a software engineer. I'm looking for a software engineer, but my skill set is data, Spark, and I'm going to look at these words. And then I look at the resume. It doesn't match. We move on. It really doesn't matter how depth. That stage is later. So in order to cross the first stage, your resume needs to be crisp, short, and cater your resume to what the company is looking for. You may have a lot of experience, but streamline it. And I'm not saying change your resume for every job. I would say tweak your resume for every job so that you're showing the skill set that the company is looking for.
Got it. Well, that's actually very insightful, right? Like because there's so many resumes that you have to read, huh?
We are reading. I mean, it's like, you're probably reading even resumes while you're sleeping and you're looking at someone. It comes on screen. You're like, this will not be a fit for my role, and
Wow.
it's so quick. It's the decision is made within about say 40-50 seconds.
Wow.
And I'm not saying we can make mistakes. So we may skip over some things, but given we deal with so many resumes, I would say do it so that that your resume catches attention.
Got it.
And colors and all those things are not important. So color doesn't make us color makes it, like I see resumes that have flowers and frills and things like that. No, I can't see anything then, because my attention is on the flower and frills.
Got it.
Keep it very crisp. Headline, some description, start with a summary where it talks about who you are, what you want, and that will take you there.
Got it. So can we dive a little bit deeper there too? Like, okay, let's say I notice, my resume looks like this. I might want to rebrand it or make it look a little bit more like the shinier one that will catch your eye in 40 seconds, right?
Mhm.
But like, what do you think might be some like one tip, someone can adjust that you
Yes,
come and
I would
see?
say have a summary section that talks about 4 5 bullet points what you have done, like if you are, and I'm giving an example more on the engineering side because I'm thorough with that.
Yeah.
If you're like a say a software engineer, so
Hmm.
list your skills. What are your top skills? What are you known for? What's your superpower? Put it out there, and then you write about the company you worked for, from what date to what date. A lot of people put years.
Hmm.
I don't see years as a good sign. To me, years is like, did you miss some months that you want to just say, I worked in this company from 2018 to 2019?
Hmm.
Did you really work for only 2 months? You maybe started December 2018 and finished Jan 2019.
Hmm.
So as a recruiter, for me, I get put off when I don't see the dates.
Hmm.
I need to see you work in September 2018 to November 2019.
Hmm.
So for me, it makes me feel that were there gaps? Is that what you're not trying to show? And
Hmm.
it's okay to have gaps. We all have gaps in our resumes. There are time we take breaks. There's time in between. And Silicon Valley is known for workforce reductions and things like that. So don't
Hmm.
take that as something I can't show. Be
Hmm.
truthful. Show that this was a gap. It could be sabbatical. It could be COVID layoff. It could be
Hmm.
anything, and that's okay.
Hmm.
uh, the BC. So that's why putting your years is important. Putting your month and year is important, I feel. Have the company, how long you work for that company. If there are too many jumps, a recruiter may question you that why have you
Hmm.
been moving around. Have a valid reason,
Hmm.
and be truthful. Again, I would say, like you can start a company and then it didn't look like it had a good culture, and then you got a great opportunity, so you moved on, and that's
Yep.
okay.
Hmm.
uh, Having those details is important. If your resume should be ideally 1 to 2 page, nothing more than that.
Hmm.
And then when recruiters scan through, we look at the last couple of years of experience, like
Hmm.
either last 2 roles or last 5 years, what you've done. How long
Hmm.
has your experience been, in order to reach that stage where a recruiter says, hey, I like your profile. I'd love to connect with you to know what you've really done and get details and explain about the roles I have. But just to
Hmm.
get there, keep your resume short, crisp, brief, based on the role the company is looking for to fill.
Got it. That's great. That's a lot of great insight right there. Like I think it's like I like how you put it too. It's creating the resume that's not like when you touched on the point like, oh, don't have like a crazy design or a crazy flower. Like
Yes,
make it short,
it's
make it
very
crisp.
disturbing to see that, and disturbing as in it's like I need to look at what you've done, and it
Hmm.
distracts. Takes away. Sometimes I feel a resume is divided into two parts.
Hmm.
This
Hmm.
side is skill and this side is description.
Hmm.
If it's easy to read, great. But the easiest to read is, you have a summary, you have your whatever you've done in different companies. In the end, you have your education qualifications, courses you've done, and
Hmm.
things like that. And that's all we need to know.
Got
What's
it.
your qualification? And from the tech point, I'll say, if what if you're not if you've not done your bachelor's or master's in computer science, then what are the technical courses you've learned, or what
Hmm.
coding skills you've learned from which school or which program did you go. It could be anything, and that's okay.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I think that was another question actually I was gonna chat more about too. Some especially engineering or data folks, right? A lot of them might have, they might have transitioned from a different career, right? Or, a lot of people are they didn't, of course, grad school is one option, right? Investing in a master's and studying in data or studying computer science, right? But other people might have done like a boot camp, right? Or, a lot of great boot camps out there, or just like online learning, right? Like, so what you're saying is actually, it's okay to, even though you haven't done that, it's okay to put that in the education section and
Yes,
really
yes. I mean,
talk about
I
that.
don't think there is anything. I mean, if I wouldn't. And that's an I'm not comparing your knowledge can be through a boot camp or through
Hmm.
a computer science graduate school.
Hmm.
Uh, Put it out there and see. There are some teams that may need somebody to have computer science education based on the role they are looking for, where
Mm,
fundamentals are very important. But there are a lot
mm,
of roles where I need someone to just come and code, and that's
mm,
where people who've done bootcamp are fantastic.
mm.
Get the job done, over, out.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
depends on the role, job, the complexity of the role, what the demand is at that point. But ideally, as a recruiter level, we teach our hiring managers that
Mm-hmm.
look at this resume. It has the skill set you need. Let's give it a shot. Because
Got it.
as a recruiter, I promote diversity. I promote inclusion.
Got it.
It's something important to me and I'm passionate about.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Maybe we could chat about that in a little bit too.
Sure.
That's an awesome topic too. But another thing I was just thinking, yeah, like I love how you also hopefully bring some light to more people. They see the recruiter in a different type of way. They're like an advocate for you, right?
That's
Ultimately,
right.
like if you build a good connection with the recruiter, at least they could, when they talk to the hiring manager, right? Like you said,
Yes.
or when they talk, like, but I guess one of my questions, like when a recruiter, right, when you're looking for roles, right, I know you're screening, how many roles are you sort of like tackling on at a time,
We
and
have multiple roles. Again, there are there are different variations to it.
yeah.
It's like sometimes I can say I have, or my team has, uh, you know, say a recruiter may be looking at 20 recs, but
Mm,
those 20 recs could be same software engineer, or those 20 recs could be all data engineer recs.
mm,
So that is still easier. There could be companies or teams that have multiple rec. I'm handling, for example, a you know front end rec, back end rec, data engineer rec, DevOps rec. Now, in
mm,
this, your workload is higher than handling 25 same function recs.
mm.
So when it totally depends on company to company, and how their structure is internally. So
Got
it's
it.
way easy to handle 30 recs if they are same function. If I have 30 recs and all are data engineer, I know I'm just doing bulk sourcing, bulk finding candidates, talking to those, and my team is doing the same thing, and
Yeah.
it's easy. But if
Got
you
it.
have to switch between different, it's harder. It's not
Hmm.
that you can't do, it's just more time consuming. It needs, your brain has to, it doesn't stay in one mode. You'll have to keep switching and things like
Yep.
that. There's nothing wrong in it. It's just a type.
Got it. Got it. Cool. 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 Yeah. Another question I have leading on to that was more like, okay, now let's say you have this rec that you have to recruit for, right? That the company you're working with or at is hiring, right? How do the recruiters start? Like, do they just jump on LinkedIn, look for people, or like what's the like sort of the
The
way they
process.
find? Yeah, like find
So
some.
it starts with, once the headcount is approved and things like that, and we are ready to roll. Like there is a rec, we need to hire. If all that
Mm,
part is done at the back end,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
after that, it's like the recruiter meets the hiring manager,
mm-hmm,
asks clarifying questions related to what this role is. Are you looking for someone who left? And can I look at the profile, or tell me more about it? Where do, is this an essential skill? Is this a non-essential skill? Is this skill that you need, can that be learned when the candidate joins, or
mm,
the candidate should come in with that skill?
mm,
Is there basic qualification? Like, yes, you may need a degree, like maybe computer science degree or a boot camp. I mean,
mm,
for engineering role, you're not going to hire someone who's done MBBS. So it becomes a must-have qualification. So
mm,
knowing what is a must-have, knowing what is a good to have, are I think utmost uh, is great information for a recruiter,
mm,
because a lot of times what the recruiter will do, we'll send you candidates, and the hiring manager will say, not. So then you ask why. This is the must-have skills, but does not have, say, this industry background. So, but then you say, no, but this was not a must-have. So if it is a
mm,
must-have, let me know. I will target those candidates then. I will not
mm,
target candidates and raise hope for candidates who are not from the industry. Then it
mm,
needs to be straightforward. You need somebody from the industry who has these must-have skills. So then the industry becomes a must-have.
mm,
So those are the things that a recruiter needs to clarify before starting.
mm,
A recruiter in general will have some, if somebody is a new recruiter, they may not have information on industry trend, but a seasoned recruiter will have information on, you don't find so many hires, or how many hires will you find? what would be the budget around, like, hey, you can't expect to hire an engineer in this much, it's
Mm,
expensive or it's less expensive, oh your budget, this is you're paying shelling too much money for it, and things like that. So this is what a recruiter will be able to do based on the size of the company. If it's a
mm.
smaller size, recruiter will do that part as well. If it's a big company, then you have a budget, it's easier, then recruiters are just hiring, here is a candidate, you like it or not, and we move on if you don't.
Got it. Wow, that's a lot of great knowledge as well. So, so from that though, like I think I was also interested. Like, if okay, let's say it's a seasoned recruiter, right? So they know you know how the budget will look like, right? They've marked down that this is a must-have, this is a nice add-on, right? But how do they find these individuals? I'm sure one aspect is people are applying into it, right?
Mhm.
But if they want to go out and be proactive and try to look for individuals, how are they doing that?
So they go online on various job sites. LinkedIn is the most popular one, but there are
Mm,
plenty out there. So apart from applicants, I think LinkedIn right now is the most popular because it's like, in olden days we used to have X-ray searches where you put in and you go on Google and you search and you can find on Stack Overflow. But I
mm,
feel these big tools like Intello, LinkedIn, and many more, they've made it easy for us. The X-ray search is inbuilt. You just put your words there and you'll see the resumes pop up.
mm,
The search is very dependent on the skill set words on the tech side.
mm,
Like for data engineer, I'll put in Hadoop, Spark, string processing, streaming, things like that.
mm,
Or for, a large scale distributed systems engineer, I'll put, certain other words. So it's very to the point on the tech. On the non-tech side, it's not that black and white,
mm,
which a sales recruiter will give you an idea on. It's different.
mm,
You search, you go deeper into the resume. It's not just about the words. So you start your search from there on LinkedIn or Google or wherever. But I feel today LinkedIn is enough, and that's my opinion. I'm able to get everything done on LinkedIn. Uh, so that's where I would start. Did I
for
answer
sure.
your question?
Yeah, no. I think for sure. Like, I mean, everyone's on LinkedIn nowadays, so I
Yeah,
could
it's like
only
if everybody's on Facebook, everybody's on LinkedIn. Those are the, like for social, you're on Facebook or Instagram, or
yeah.
for career perspective, from career aspect, you're there on LinkedIn.
Yeah, everyone's on LinkedIn, and also like sometimes LinkedIn makes it super easy to apply for jobs, right?
That's true.
Coming from a candidate, it's like all I have to do is attach a resume. Some of it could be an easy apply, you know. And but no, those are super interesting insight there. I think I have maybe transition a little bit, right, from the resume. Maybe this is the complementary of a resume, which is the cover letter. So for the cover letter, I always thought about this too, and I'm sure some of our viewers are thinking the same lines. Like, how important is that cover letter? Yeah.
And I'm going to give only my opinion.
Yep. Of course. Yep.
For me, no,
Mm,
because I stress on resume. I look at resume.
mm-hmm,
I, I mean, I have to read a resume. Imagine if I have to read every candidate's cover letter and those
mm-hmm,
who send. So cover letter is, to me, not important. I think
mm-hmm,
it was a very uh, old, not old generation, I would say. It was done a few years ago when people used to send letters to companies, say, this is my resume, I'm interested in your company, and somebody from the HR would read.
mm-hmm,
Now it's so digital. I can see your profile. It's like even resume is becoming less. If someone's LinkedIn profile is little precise,
mm-hmm,
even resumes are not something. I would say it would probably die down.
mm-hmm,
Or not, depends. Like if I need to someone's resume, I may send a LinkedIn link. Or if it's not enough information, then I send a resume. So
mm-hmm,
cover letter is too much to read, especially in the world where we are dealing, not in the world, like especially in companies where we are doing constantly hiring, where a recruiter's role is, to scan through, 50, 60, 100 resumes in a day. So where do I have, or my team have the, bandwidth to read cover
Mm,
letter. We may go into the cover letter sometime. So I would say this is more for tech. For sales, I feel the cover letter may come in handy, on
mm,
the sales marketing side,
mm,
where someone can talk about their experience or interest based on their skill set.
mm,
Uh, but on tech, I would say not so important unless you really have something to convey.
mm,
But even if you have something to convey, if there are so many cover letters, the recruiters are not going to read it. So you'll have to
mm,
find another way to tell a recruiter. For example, you may be someone who's managing and now wants to do hands-on engineering. An engineering manager can be hands-on. So let me give you some context. But a lot of times, if a recruiter is hiring for an individual contributor, they will think the manager is not interested in IC role. But a manager can be interested in an IC role because tech doesn't work as manager is not there are principal engineers who are above managers in a sense at level in experience. So
mm,
it depends on. So when this engineering manager wants to convey that, hey, I've been a manager but I'm looking for an IC role, in that case a cover letter may be handy, but it may not be looked at. So in that case, I would say a personal relationship with the recruiter, or a relationship on LinkedIn where you can send a message like,
mm,
hey, I applied for this role, I'm a manager right now, but I'm interested in IC role, I'm hands on. I'm very hands on, and I can take up I just want to get out of the manager role and be an IC.
mm,
So that is important in conveying. If there is something really important you want to convey to the recruiter,
mhm,
so that you're not scanned out just by he or she looking at your resume.
mm. Got it. Got it. Great. Uh, Great on that. Is there so last point, right, that you touched on. So you actually if of course, right, every single applicant wants their best shot at this job, right?
Mhm.
And they're very interested in it, right? What's your perspective on, I think, the last point, like if they're trying to reach out to the recruiter, they see this is the recruiters who's hiring for the role, is that a good thing to do? Like if it is, how should they do it, um,
I would say being very straightforward, like
mhm,
on LinkedIn, go send a message like, hey, I applied for this role, uh, and I have this, I have so many years of experience and this skill set. But again, there is no guarantee, because again, they're already dealing with resumes. That's their
mm,
priority.
mm,
And you cannot make someone answer
mhm.
because they have their day plan based on their priority. It's not that they're being rude or not answering.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
need
yeah.
to take care of certain things first before they take care of certain things. Like, it doesn't make them that they're not. And I
Mhm,
mean, I'm sure, like, my understanding is all recruiters are doing their best uh, to make sure that they cater to how their candidates want to be answered. uh,
mm,
and it's coming from the fact they're passionate about helping people, they're passionate about hiring, they're passionate about finding the right candidate for the right role, and it's coming from there. But again, at
mm,
the same time, if a certain recruiter has like 30 recs to handle and is so busy, they may not be able to individually answer. So
mm,
yes, you are taking a chance to send a message and see if that works. But just keep your, if you're right for the role, keep your resume crisp, be straightforward. Sometimes, some people will message on LinkedIn. I would say another good way of interacting is, don't just send a message, hi. You
mhm,
know, if you
mhm,
want something, say hi, what your point is, because think of
mm,
it, they are so busy that if you just say hi, a recruiter is not going to stop and say hi on LinkedIn to you, because that's not priority.
mhm,
uh, but if there is something, hi Mohita, I applied for this role, I will really fit your this role, this job number. If you give maximum information, precise, short, and crisp, that person will look. And because it's not that we don't look, we look, but we may not reply because it just isn't worth the time.
mm,
The ROI is very low. And I'm not saying that no person is not worth the time of a recruiter. It is that there are other priorities. We love talking to candidates.
mhm,
We go search for candidates to talk to them so that we can fit them in the role.
mhm,
But it's just about priority at that time.
mm,
I need to take care of filling this role first, than saying hi and things like that. So I would say keep the messaging etiquettes very precise, professional. I
mm,
mean, I feel sometimes like, hi, how are you? That's not a LinkedIn message. Like, don't like hi, this is the role I applied for. This is what it is. Very
mhm,
transactional.
mhm,
And some
mhm,
people may disagree, but this is my opinion. Like, I'm able to answer better if it's very precise, short, crisp,
Mm-hmm.
go for it. Because it's faster, easier, and I
Mm-hmm.
can prioritize my work, and then that aspect as well.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I'm sure. In a recruiter's inbox, there's just like a lot of messages.
There are.
I can only imagine that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And I
But,
do my best to answer. There are times when I have the time, I'll even answer like, great profile. Thank you. But if some role opens, I will reach out to you just to
mm-hmm.
give them closure.
Yeah.
But the thing
Mm-hmm.
is, our way of reaching out is not that standard. Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we'll add the candidate to our database because it fits this role. But if this is not the role they fit, we may not be able to add them. So they are there in
Mm-hmm.
our inbox, and then
Yeah.
we'll do our search. And
Yeah.
if you pop up in our search, then those are the best chances.
Mm.
But at the same time, recruiters will make a folder and keep you aside for the right role if they know it's going to come up. So it
Mm.
totally depends on the type of work or the space of work the recruiter is doing.
Got it.
And there is no standard. Like
Mm.
every recruiter has their own workload, every company has their own protocol and things like that.
Mm. Wow. Super interesting for sure. Yeah. Yeah, there were a few different questions. Maybe we could dive into that as well. One of the questions that I wanted to ask was, okay, if you were a candidate, right, with sort of minimal to zero experience in terms of managing, right? So maybe someone has been sort of an individual contributor, but is looking more for the maybe manager level, right,
Mhm,
of with direct reports.
mhm.
How would they go about applying for these mid-level positions? And yeah, how can they get the resume notice or address that during the interview? Like, what's your
So,
perspective there?
so if your question is if you're an IC and looking for a manager role,
Mm-hmm.
then it's harder for a company to hire you in a manager role. That's because they need evidence that you are a good manager, and that's how they will hire you.
Mm.
But if you're looking to grow as an IC from IC to another IC, then your experience will speak for it. Like if you've been a software engineer, and forgive me, I'm taking software engineering examples because that's what I've done maximum in my. If you're a
Mm.
software engineer at a certain company for 3 years, it's definitely time for next level.
Mm-hmm.
And it's understood either the company you are in will give you the next level anyways, or in this company you can be in the next level because your 3 years in a certain level are over. You're doing good, you're progressing, you're smart and growing. The other company will look at you for level 2 if you're level 1,
Mm.
because your 3 years of experience, it's time for level 2 even in the company you're in, and this
Mm.
new company will also look at you as level 2. But if
Mm.
you're not a manager and you want to go to another company as a manager, hire me as a manager, then it's hard for this new company to take you as a manager because you haven't proven yourself as a manager. Now,
Mm.
this company very rarely will take a chance thinking you're an IC and you can manage people. You have not managed people. Your
Mm.
current company can give you that chance because they have seen your behavior for 3 years, and they feel that you're ready to be a manager. But this new company hasn't seen you for 3 years. How do they know you're ready for being a manager or not? So
Mm.
I would say, to transition in your own company first, and then a
Mm.
new company will be able. No new company will just hire you to be a manager when you've never managed, because they
Mm.
don't know. There is no evidence how you would do it.
Mm.
And that's I see that's what it is.
Mm. Got it. Got it. So, yeah, great perspective there. So, like, it's I think that's really good advice, right? If someone's thinking to go into a manager position, maybe have conversations with the manager, have conversations within those org and the team at the company you are in, right?
Grow
Because
there, yes.
you're already invested some time there, right?
Yeah, and people know you. They know your style. They've already seen whether you're capable or whatever skills you need to develop. Ask your manager, what do I need to do? I want to become a manager. And any
Mm.
trainings, anything I can do, give me the role of a lead, give me
Mm-hmm.
so that you can see, and then I can grow over there and things like that. So you will
Mm-hmm.
have to initiate. Your career is in your control.
Mm.
uh, you're the one who has to facilitate it so that others see it and promote it.
Mm.
Very rarely, person who's silent can like, you need to show and express interest, that people think you're not even interested in being a manager unless you speak it out,
Mm.
unless you do something to show that I'm interested,
Mm-hmm.
and take up activities, or It's like being a class monitor. Like teacher will not know you can be the monitor unless you show teacher your leadership skills.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very much like that.
Got it. Got it. Great. Great. Yeah, let's talk about a different question. I think this one is more along, a lot of, especially in the tech industry, or people who came here out of the States, right? They could be international students, right? But they always want to come here and sort of work in the Valley, right? Within that. I know there's always been this, for many in the tech industry, the H-1B visa is sort of like a common requirement, right? So like, what's your stance or perspective on like, I always see this line, right, on a lot of companies, is that they ask like, oh, do you need sponsorship, right? Do you need that? So like, if people like click that they do need sponsorship, is it like an automatic no? Or it's just like, what's that, your perspective of this?
So no, it's not an automatic no. Companies do sponsor based on their budget. Big companies sponsor because it's a trend. Small companies or startups may not because it's cost. It's cost related mostly. Um, and there are various laws behind it. And it's not a law that's controlled by the company, it's a government law. I may not be the right person to have all the information because this is a matter of legal. This is legal matter. But I can say if a company can sponsor, there is no discrimination. I mean, the thing is, end of the day, it's like if you're authorized to work for any employer in the United States, any company will hire you. They may not be able to sponsor you because they don't have the budget for it, but they're not going to not hire you because you're an H-1B. No, you can ask questions. When you're getting hired, will my green card be sponsored? And they'll tell you honestly yes or no. That's totally dependent on the company's budget. And that budget or what companies can do, they have to align with what government policies are in this regard. And I'm not an expert, so I would say as a recruiter, they have been just told that if someone is authorized to work for any employer, they are okay to work for your company.
Got it. Great. Transitioning to another one would be, okay, so now let's say you bring in a pretty good candidate, right? But there, like you said, there's a lot of stakeholders, right? There's the recruiter, right, who will be the advocate, right? There's the hiring manager. There's also higher management, maybe the VP or other leadership, right? How does that decision sort of like come together? Like, is it always who has the greatest power in making this decision? Is it always the person at the top, or how does it, from your perspective?
So it's different in different companies based on the philosophy they hold. But in general, hiring manager is a decision maker because hiring manager is the one hiring that candidate for their team. But hiring manager always looks at what other interviewers and team members have to say. So that's why they generally have a debrief session. And that's why a debrief session is super important, where all the interviewers can get together and talk about different skill set. Because if somebody has gone through 4 or 5 interviews, each panelist will have their own special area to evaluate. And those panelists talk about what they felt about the candidate. And then that's where the hiring manager comes in and facilitates and sees that, okay, you said this guy was not good with, say, architecture, but this is an entry level role. Do you think we can deal with it in a sense if he's good at coding and if he's got great fundamentals, computer science fundamentals, then architecture is something that he can learn if he's in that environment. So hiring manager is a decision maker, is a facilitator in a way who sees he sees the big picture. Like I told you to evaluate coding and someone evaluated in coding said, very good. I told you to evaluate architecture and architecture was not good. Now hiring manager sees, okay, architecture is not good, but this guy has only 1 year experience in architecture. He can learn with time because it's a bigger thing. You learn based on experience in different companies, the architecture of the software they have and things like that. So that's why I say hiring manager should be the final decision maker, but it is always a consent. And in some companies it's consensus, like you vote, not important, they'll show thumbs up, thumbs down, and those who say thumbs down, they will tell why, and the others will try to convince, but that's okay. And if they get convinced, end of the debrief, they have to decide yes or no.
Got it. Got it.
So that's why it's, I won't say any one person is the decision maker. It's a group. It's a group thing. They all
Mm.
have to agree that we want to hire.
Great, great, great. But you're saying, yeah, for sure, like the hiring manager has a
Majority of this
the
time,
major
he is the decision maker in
decision
general
maker.
because
Yeah.
he's the one hiring on his team.
Got it. Got it. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, I think, yeah, let's touch base on something we were chatting a little bit earlier too, right? The diversity, right?
Mhm.
Diversity and inclusion. I think one of the questions was like, when what's like the best way to diversify sort of like the candidate pool? You know, how do you bring in talent that's like from a diversity angle?
Perspective. So
Or
there's a
yeah.
lot of research being done, and we have specialized team in big companies who do diversity recruiting. In smaller companies, it will be done by the team that currently exists. They may not be specialized diversity recruiters, but there are various theories out there, things like Rooney Rule, where certain aspects should be minority representation and things like that. But in layman terms, I would say what works is uh, equal representation of the minority. And diversity will be different to different teams. For certain teams, a certain race, color, or gender may be what they need because they have all, men in their team. So they
Mm-hmm.
need women. And
Mm-hmm.
for certain teams, it'll be they have certain, race or color in their team and they need something else. So it is a subject which is in full swing right now, and it has its value and importance. Studies have shown that diversity improves the overall, growth of the company and innovation of the company, and
Mm-hmm.
hence it is important. A lot of times, some people may not understand it at the initial, but when you see the change and when you hire and you see how things do, and they realize, yes, it does. So
Mm-hmm.
as a recruiter, you're constantly preaching or teaching your hiring managers and advocating like, okay, I do have a diverse, it's a different candidate, you've not done. And it could be not, if diversity is not just skin or color or race, it's like at colleges for that matter. It's like, you're used to hiring in this college, let's try this college,
Mm-hmm.
or let's try non-college.
Mm-hmm.
They may have something else to offer, somebody who may have done, you know you see master business and now is getting into an MBA and now has done a coder
Mm-hmm.
thing and things like that. Let's do it. If someone clears our interview, let's give it a chance. So as a recruiter, you're teaching that, preaching that, advocating that, like, let's try, let's give this a shot. We're not asking, I mean, nobody wants to compromise on the quality of talent, but if you're
Mm-hmm.
getting that quality in different diverse layers, then go for it.
Mm, got it. That's great. That's great. Yeah, like even just working in teams, right? Like you have to have, different perspective because everyone
Yeah.
comes from a different culture, from a different
Yes.
background. I think it's so important because it's,
Different thinking patterns
yeah,
are important. There's neurodiversity, like we tend to hire people like us,
mm,
like I may feel, oh, I'm quick, I'm fast, I need people like me. No, I need people
yeah,
who are slow also, because they will
yeah,
keep me in track.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
okay, let's slow down, let's see how this is, versus be like, let's get this done. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
that diversity is so important, and we don't realize. If I had 10 people like me, we'll be doing the same thing, and my drawbacks that I have will not be covered by anybody else. So we will always be lacking in that area that is a sore point. So
Yeah.
that's why diversity is important.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like if you bring in like 10 people who are just like running and always
Yes.
running, no
Yeah.
one ever even asks like, where are we running to?
That's
Like it's like, where are we running to?
that's true.
Right? Like, yeah, like that's so, so true. Yeah. Cool,
It's like, I mean, I see that in my own two kids. Like,
cool.
one is a helper. I say, I want this. She'll go, she'll do this. The other one is just looking at, like, I asked you to get me something. Oh, I don't want to go. I'm like, oh my God, but that's diversity. But now, if I get an IKEA package and we have to build a table, then this little guy will say, oh, can I solve this puzzle? And my daughter, who's a helper, she'll say, I don't want to do this. This is heavy. I'm like, okay, so I need someone for this work, and then I need someone for this work. It's very
Yeah.
basic as that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's great. That's great. Yeah, cool. Maybe I usually, so just some last questions before, right? I usually ask the same one to the guests on this podcast. what's like one sort of wisdom or advice, especially for people who are just like applying for tech roles at this
Mhm.
time? Like what's that piece of advice you have for them? Pretty high
Uh,
level one, but yeah.
I would say it's a hard time in general with COVID. People, there's lots that's happened, uh, but be patient, keep trying. Work on things that you can work, control what you can control. What you can control, you can control. But what you can do that, take up courses, uh, fix your resume, be sharp, learn, and keep applying. Don't give up. There will be something there. Uh, and that would be my take. This too shall pass. This
Hmm.
time of COVID, this too shall pass.
Yep. Let's all stay positive. That's
Yes.
all we can do, you know. The year is almost over and we have
Year's almost
2021.
over.
So yeah, thank you for having you on today. It's really been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, Hubert.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'll talk
All
to you
right.
later. All right.
Talk to you later. Bye bye.
Bye bye.